Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Hope you're all well. I just want to clarify a couple of points. Yes, there are negotiations going on. The reason we can't sit as just independents is because we won't get nothing done at all for the community. We need to go into an alliance. Need to make sure our demands are met. We have put some demands down. And if those demands are met, then we will work with the other parties. And alhamdulillah, if that happens, we will get cabinet positions, we will get what our community deserves. So please, just have faith in us, just a little bit more time. The meeting's on the 22nd of May, and then everything will be a lot clearer. And if they don't meet our demands, we don't care, and we will sit as opposition members. And that's, please just keep that in mind. And that's to all the brothers. We're not like the other party where, just for positions, we will go and get ourselves and put ourselves forward just for the money on the cabinets, etc., etc. We're not like that. That's not what we want. We want our community, and we're putting our community first. And you're just going to have to trust us, because we can't actually divulge anything at all to anybody yet until it actually happens. And when it happens, then everybody will know exactly what we've done and how we've done it. And I'm hoping that, inshallah ta'ala, you'll be proud of us.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good evening, the 14th of May. Tuesday, the 14th of May 2024. I need to go and do something first. I need to turn my TV off to hopefully get some bandwidth up on this. So just give me 1 second. Please, my apologies. Just give me 1 second. Thank you very, very much for bearing with me. Hopefully if the internet goes, blame whoever I'm with. They're a complete waste of time. I am on tomorrow morning, internet permitting. I'm on, is it TNT Radio that I do a stint with? I'm doing the morning newspapers at 8:45. So if you are up and about and interested, log on to TNT Radio and be entertained by me for half an hour or so. So I'm looking forward to that. I spent this afternoon, I was genuinely worried. I'd spent, for those of you know, our coordinating meetings whilst we're out delivering leaflets in Royton had been taking place in the Royton Grill. And I went there on Monday, wanted some nibbles, a desi breakfast, a chai, pulled up, got my bag, walked up, and it was shut. And I was worried. She was shut. So clearly I phoned Tuin, who runs the place, worried about, something had happened, particularly to the prospect of my late breakfast, rather than anything to do with him per se. And he said he'd had a water leak and it had messed up the electrics. I'm out of focus. Okay, well, that is easily solved, I think. Let me check. Just give me a second, he says. Is that any better? It's because I'd left the desk and went back. So yeah, I was worried. Anyway, I went today to make sure everything was okay. It was opening up again, but clearly, you know, he needed to make sure everything was right. So he needed volunteers to sample. So I went and sampled. So that's what I did. I think I'm back in focus now, Gary. My equipment is old and cobbled together. So those of you who I regularly get these comments of, Raj, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Mate, come to my house. I've got a corner of my living room I've retreated into from my daughter's ever expanded Lego collection. So that's where I am. So I wish I could have more equipment and all that sort of stuff, but nah, not for me. We've managed okay, haven't we? All things considered, and there's a prospect that we will continue to make a difference. An out-of-town commentator or blogger or something, I think is what Anita Lowe and her friends call me from various fake accounts. An out-of-town blogger. Well, if an out-of-town blogger can do this much damage with an old camera and a cobbled together equipment, imagine what a genuine journalist who was really interested in this sort of stuff could do. If an out-of-town blogger can do this. I'm sorry if I'm still out of focus, still fuzzling. I'm looking at the camera right in front of me, and it's clear at my end. It was fuzzy before, but it's clear at my end. So maybe just reload your page or something and see if that makes a difference. Anyway, 2 in. I left with drinking 3 cups of chai. 3 cups of chai, and he didn't give me samosas. He gave me something called a smash burger. I have no idea what a smash burger is, but it tasted nice. And I was loitering at the prospect of maybe a second one coming along, but it wasn't to be, and I had to leave. I had to go and see my sister because it was her birthday yesterday, and I didn't make it to her yesterday on the chance that there was cake available. No, so there wasn't cake available. And I am happier, Marlon, but the Sunday night transmission was a very serious transmission, wasn't it? Because you all needed to know what was going on, and it is so frustrating. Because I genuinely do not believe, and I am an independent, let's be clear, before any of these people came along, there was Raj Amir who's promoting the independence, shaping the independence, educating the independence. There's not a single independent councillor on Oldham Council that has not taken value from what I've said, irrespective of where they are with me now, whether they speak to me or don't speak to me across the road when they see me, none of that matters. Not a single one of them can say that they have not taken value from my education, my advice, my support, my mentoring. So I was genuinely miffed, not because of what these people had done, but because what the consequences were. Because you have to accept by now, I am several steps ahead of where this might go. And I feared, and I still fear, that should these people fail us now, then the independent movement is finished. Because the general population will look at this and think, these are a bunch of idiots. They can't agree anything amongst themselves. They argue all the time. Better off voting Labour, Conservative or Liberal Democrats, and the independent movement will die just like that. And these people won't get re-elected. They'll go to the end of their term. And we'll have been, as in the entire borough, will have been failed. So that's what I think. And why I was down. It wasn't because they'd upset me in any way. It was because I understood where this, and I still understand where this is likely to go as a consequence of this foolhardery, I think, and this desire for, well, in the main, it's a willy waving contest between different men, isn't it? I mean, that's what it looks like to me. It's a willy waving contest between a couple of millionaires, someone who would like to be a millionaire and claims he's made lots of people rich in his life, and that's what's gone on. Now, before we continue, if you find value, there's 38 likes and there's 152 of you watching. So if you find value, at the very least, press the like button. I didn't do it on Sunday night because it was very serious. You know, if you find value, at least press the like button. And if you're able to, buy me a coffee. Thank you for the super chats by the 3 or 4 of you. Oh, I've got news on the super chats. Thank you for the super chats. And then we have got 2 people who've bought me a coffee. So very generous of the 2 people who've bought me a coffee. And 1 person who's taken out a subscription this evening for the year. £30 for the year it is, by the way. So if you subscribe for the year, it's like £2.50 a month. £2.50 a month. If you subscribe for the year. Now, what do I say to that? And I'm still struggling with that. Now, I know you all take value in this because you're all here. The super chats, before I forget. YouTube sent me a nice email. We have a threshold of when the money is drawn down, and we will be able to draw the money down at the end of May, or it'll automatically be drawn down. There'll be enough there for a gathering of sorts, obviously on me, on you, with the super chats and the subscriptions that come through. So we'll book a place out, and you can, as many of you as want, are you're more than welcome to be my guests. I will feed you. I will try and buy you all at least a drink, and we'll enjoy each other's company. So I'm going to arrange that for an evening in early June, I think. So there'll be plenty of notice for people, particularly people like Gary and Louise who come up from afar. So please, it'd be my pleasure to host all of you. Even if you don't subscribe, it makes no difference. When I put the invite out, you're all more than welcome to come and enjoy our company. And you'll see we are not the demons that these people portray us to be. If anything, we're anything but these demons that they portray us to be. Okay, let's continue with this evening. I think it's important we start with where the ruling party are at. That's the Labour Party. They've got 27 votes. They haven't got enough for a majority. So Arud Shah is now currently desperately contacting all the independents. The Labour Party head office have ruled out a coalition with the Conservatives, as if the Conservatives were ever going to get into bed with Labour. So they've ruled out a coalition with the Conservatives. The Lib Dems have ruled out a coalition with them. And as I would like to remind Councillor Mark Ince, in an email letter he responded to me before the election, the Shaw and Crompton independents had also ruled out a coalition. In fact, the only ones that hadn't ruled out a coalition with the Labour Party was, of course, the Royton independents, but that's because they don't want to talk to me or respond to me, so that's fine. But if they got in bed with the Labour Party, I think that'd be the finish, that'd be the end of them in Royton. I think Maggie Hurley and Jade Hughes would be chased out of Royton if they got in bed with propping up the Labour Party. So across the board, all of them, all of the independents have, including Mark Wilkinson, including Brian Hoban, all of the independents have refused to enter coalition, as of the Lib Dems and of course the Conservatives and the Oldham Group, who have been yo-yoing around, but Arud Shah isn't going to get what she wants, I don't think, there. Now, that doesn't mean she won't stay in power. She's only got 27. The opposition have got to get more than 27 people to vote against her. Yeah, just because there's 33 of them doesn't mean 33 of them will vote together, and it doesn't mean that they'll all vote against her. So, of the 27 Arud Shah's got, she's set her team out. So she's created her shadow, she'd created her cabinet and all the rest of it, who's got what position. And the interesting one for you is Councillor Elaine Taylor is still one of the deputies. Remember, we failed to take her out by 19 votes. And for those of you who've asked me for an update on the possibility of some form of legal action because of issues with the election, this isn't, by the way, on Councillor Elaine Taylor at all. This is an administrative issue on the failings of Oldham Council. I can confirm that the information we've been able to collate so far demonstrates at least 30 votes that were scheduled to be cast in favour of the Conservative candidate, which would then have seen him over the line. At least 30 votes did not make it out via postal votes as they were required to do so. So Oldham Council have an opportunity or a requirement to get back with information as to what they did with these 30 votes. These are legitimate 30 registrations, and those of you who follow me know that I had raised these concerns prior to the election of interference in postal votes being registered by the Conservatives, lawfully, legally. Basically, the Conservatives were registering people who they'd knocked on the doors and said, yes, I'd vote for you, but I can't get to election that day. Can I sign up for a postal vote? Here's a form, fill it in, I'll drop it off for you, or you drop it off. And someone at the council was filtering postal votes, that's my suspicion, highlighting the ones that the Labour Party had approved beforehand, and then messing around with the ones that they didn't recognise that they knew had come in from the opposition parties. So that is being played out. I genuinely think there's a case there. Whether that case proceeds or not is entirely up to the Conservative Party now. It's a Conservative candidate. My thoughts are courage needs to be demonstrated. This council is out of control. This council's election office has been behaving fast and loose. So we will see. We will see what happens. And of course, I'll keep you updated. The deadline is 21 days. So if the Conservatives were to do anything, it would have to be 21 days before from the election, from the results. So 21 days, Friday, 3 weeks on Friday. So we're a week in. This Friday will be 2 weeks, and next Friday will be 3 weeks. I'm sorry, Zach, if the camera doesn't seem correct. There's I don't know what I've done with it. Maybe my daughter's touched it or something since I was last on. Maybe it's just had enough. I don't know. Maybe I've had a clean. No, I know what I've done with it. I had a clean on Monday morning. So maybe that's what I did. Maybe that's what I did. I don't know if I can fix this, so let me see, that's blurred. I think the autofocus has gone off or something. You'll have to make do with me fuzzy. You'll have to deal with me fuzzy, I'm afraid. You're not here to see my face anyway, you're here to listen to my voice perhaps and see the content that I share with you. Markin shared this last Friday night, Saturday, after they had that meeting, and I can now confirm That no one turned up to the meeting. He's been disingenuous when he says OMBC and the independents, because he does not represent the independents. There was him and Lisa Navesey who turned up. Brian Hoban turned up, but really Brian Hoban turned up to listen and give him a piece of his mind, and he hasn't signed up to any of this. And the rest of them were the Oldham Group, a selection of the Oldham Group candidates. So when they said 12 people turned up, they weren't 12 councillors. That is misleading. I think that was Paul Eric who said that. And then this nonsense about he wasn't a spy. Well, no, that's just absolute bollocks as well. It was a complete disaster. But this came out as a consequence. He put this statement out, and he said, we have now established we have the strength to go forward to ensure independent councillors play a significant part in any administrational structure, something which will be communicated to potential coalition partners. Tonight was not about individuals, but rather based on the independent vote, what we should be considering in any power-sharing agreement. Well, it seems Councillor Mark Hinds has been outmanoeuvred by the very people he met with, and that is, of course, the Oldham Group. So Councillor Mark Hinds' Sean Crompton Group have been outmanoeuvred by the Oldham Group, and the option he's now left with, it seems, is he has to join the Oldham Group. And if he joins the Oldham Group, and by the time we finish this transmission, we'll see what the issues are for people from across all of our communities, never mind white people from across all of our communities. If he joins the Oldham Group, then I think it will be curtains for Mark and Lisa in Shaw. But you can see, once we have some solid feedback, we'll arrange another meeting with independents to take things forward. And he wants to thank Mr. Paul Eric. My transmission's running fine at my end, else if I maybe just reload the screen. And as for describing Mr. Eric, a man who trades on dignity and respect and not on divisiveness and hate, which is why Mark Hinds left Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth, clearly. So that came out on Friday night. I think this came out on Monday. I did my transition Sunday, and this came out on Monday. And it's a statement from Councillor Howard Sykes. I'm afraid there's nothing I can do at my end if it's frozen for you after an advert came on. I think it's best for you just to reload the page or close the page down and start again. I don't think it's frozen for anyone else. So, and my signal is showing it's fine. So I can't see anything at my end, I'm afraid, Cal. That might be causing an issue. Councillor Howard Sykes issued a statement. Talks progress for a partnership council to run Oldham, says Oldham Liberal Democrats. Talks on a way forward that could mean Labour no longer running Oldham are progressing between groups of opposition councillors. If a partnership for Oldham agreement can be reached, it will be the first time in 13 years that Labour have not been in charge of the borough. Thanks, Jackie. So, positive discussions have so far been held between the Liberal Democrats, Conservative and the Oldham Group. So you can see all this time the Oldham Group have been double dealing Councillor Mark Hinds, because the Oldham Group have been not negotiating on behalf of Councillor Mark Hinds, they've been negotiating on behalf of themselves. as I've said to you right from the offset. Conversations are also being held with several of the independent groups and some independent councillors. Councillor Sykes added, Labour has lost control of Oldham and the Liberal Democrats have already ruled out any formal coalition with them. Yes, they did, when I wrote to them to confirming that was to happen before the election. And Councillor Howard Sykes did respond. The question is, has everybody else, and can we find a new way forward for those who want to work together for Oldham? It is possible to replace this tired Labour administration with something better, but for that to work, politicians in the smaller groups and none will need to talk and work together. We have been given a moment in time by the people of Oldham to see if we can collectively rise to this new challenge. And then he sets out his 4 priorities. So there's no reason why the priorities have to be kept hidden, Cameron Gaffer. No reason whatsoever. The Liberal Democrats have set out the priorities. The Conservatives have set out the priorities. And I've seen something very recently where even, oh God, I've been backstabbed and left behind. I'm not as clever as I thought I have. Mark Hinz has also set out his priorities. I know the Fails of Independence, both factions have communicated directly with Howard Sykes or got messages to him. So all of that is fine. And no, I don't know anything about the Royton Independents, but they will have to tag along, whether they like it or not. These are our absolute priorities, and number 1, of course, is call for a full public inquiry into historic child sexual abuse. I'll get to that another day, once I've spoken with Brian Hoban, because Brian Hoban has confirmed with Howard Sykes that his ask of a coalition, of supporting a coalition, and this is very adult of Brian Hoban, who, as you all know, I mocked in the Worst Councillor of the Year awards thing that I did. It's very grown up of Brian Hoban. Is he went to Howard Sykes and said the CSE will not be made into a political football. The Fails of Independence, who led on this from the outset, which they did, will produce the motion. And Brian's spoken with me, I've spoken with others, and of course we will put that motion together so it's as bulletproof as possible. And the other things we all agree with. I don't think there's anyone who disagrees with it. The Places for Everyone, Andy Burnham's Greenbelt land grab, none of us want it. The Oldham Theatre, of course, save it. And a new partnership in Oldham to work hard to fix the council by getting the basics right. And I think there's a few other things I'd like to see there. And I'm sure the minority groups will negotiate this. And even if they don't, we'll get it over the line one way or another. And that's like it's transparent governance. Freedom of information requests being answered. Constitutional services lifting bans on people. That should never have been banned. The right to ask public questions and ask your own questions. Go to the council meeting and ask your own questions. Longer public questions. That sort of stuff. Around transparent governance, I don't think Howard Sykes or any of the people who are looking to work in the coalition can really disagree with. So it does sound promising. Sheila, it does sound very promising. So that's what's happened there. And we move on to a couple of posts I put out. Lisa Navesey, Councillor Lisa Navesey, liked one of them, where I criticised the Oldham Group's audio footage. So I find it interesting that Councillor Mark Hinz is promoting the Oldham Group, whilst Councillor Lisa Navesey is questioning the audio footage that I've leaked, which doesn't sound good, does it? Our demands and so on and so on. I'll break all of that down in a little while. And Hannah Roberts, former Councillor Hannah Roberts, also liked it. This is what I released.
Brothers, hope you're all well. I just want to clarify. Assalamu alaikum, brothers, hope you're all well. I just want to clarify a couple of points. Yes, there are negotiations going on. The reason we can't say as just independents is because we won't get nothing done at all for.
Okay. The first claim that Councillor Cameron Gaffer issues in this statement of his, that he got very angry at, by the way, for me releasing, sharing with you, voters, many of you voted for these people, and him and his pals got very angry with me sharing this, that he'd already shared with his, what was predominantly an exclusive Pakistani audience. I thought, well, it was given to me, so share it, which I did. He got very angry. But the first thing he states is there are negotiations taking place because as independents, there's nothing they can do. Yeah? Complete fallacy. It's a complete fabrication. It's made up. Now, he either says that off the back of ignorance, because he doesn't know how the council operates, and I genuinely believe there's some of that. This man has no idea how the council operates. He doesn't stop to read the rule book. Or he's trying to manipulate people. And I think there's some of that as well. Now, of course, the obvious point to raise is if you can't get nothing done as independents, why didn't you, Cameron Gaffer, Naveed Chauhan, Abdul Wahid, why didn't you tell your voters that once elected you would be looking to go into coalition with the Conservatives, with the Lib Dems? Why did you keep that from your voters? Because you should have known that there was no way you were going to control the council. You only put up 7 or 8 candidates, and one of them was in bloody Failsworth where he got 20 votes. So you're never going to take control of the council. And I think the first lie, deception, is this not telling people that. And the second deception is now telling people that you have no power to do anything unless you go into coalition, which is a complete fabrication because you don't know how councils work. You also don't know how coalitions work. And there's something called supply and demand. Because the truth is, neither Naila Ibrahim, who is Cameron Gaffer's cousin, or Shoaib Akhtar, a fellow Pakistani Werneth councillor who stepped back from Labour over Gaza, the same as these guys who've been promoting all on that platform, neither Naila or Shoaib will go into partnership or sit within the Oldham Group. So are they ineffective? Will they now get nothing done? Will the two most experienced Muslim councillors who sit outside the Labour Party now not get anything done? No, because they understand how councils work. They'll get plenty done. So you don't have to join a group to get something done. That's a complete lie. You don't have to join the coalition to get something done. It's a complete fabrication. Are you telling me that Mark Wilkinson and Sandra Ball aren't going to get anything done? Just hold on. The fundamentals of a councillor is to serve the local community that elects them. And the bread and butter work that a councillor does, or is supposed to do, isn't go on international peacekeeping missions or look for the next HMO. The fundamentals of what a councillor is meant to do is casework, bread and butter casework. Bins, potholes, parks, youth clubs, community facilities. And all of those things can be done and have been done successfully by decent grassroots councillors in towns and cities across the country who do not sit in power. So this man is deceiving you, has deceived you before the election, and is now deceiving you, continuing to deceive you now. And I think that's right, Ian. He has no interest in his voters. Now, the people he shares this with, unfortunately, the majority of them will not know that what he's saying isn't true, and would not have the reflective skills to say, well, why didn't you say so at the beginning that if we elected you, you would have to go into coalition to get something done? So he's deceiving you from the outset. Let me carry on playing it.
Community, we need to go into an alliance, need to make sure our demands are met.
We need to go into an alliance. We need to make sure our demands are met. So what are your demands? All the others have set out their priorities. Reasonable. I don't even disagree with Mark Hintz's priorities that is retrospectively at the last moment put out. Now he knows he's been shafted. What are your demands? Why won't you share your demands? It's either because he knows his demands will be unpalatable for even his voters. Two, he doesn't even know what his demands are. Or three, actually has no demands in terms of policies. It's about power and positions. And this is what he goes on to say. And again, I'm not edited any of this. This is his own words. It's the full recording.
Put some demands down, and if those demands are met, then we will work with the other parties. And alhamdulillah,
if those demands are met, then we will work with the other parties. So if our secret demands are met, we will work with the other parties. Is that what he said to you, Markins, on Friday night? Yeah. Agreed, Tony. Agreed. Let's carry on.
if that happens, we will get cabinet positions. Alhamdulillah, if that happens.
Alhamdulillah, if that happens. Now, there's a Oldham Group politician who got 200 votes called Muhammad Ali, who has been selectively recording things I say on my transmission and trying to incite violence against me by trying to portray me as an anti-Muslim, anti-Muslim. Muhammad Ali, I have not put that word in Cameron Gaffar's mouth. He said it himself, alhamdulillah. Muhammad Ali is trying to incite violence against me because I am providing this form of analysis and he doesn't like it. Some of you know Muhammad Ali. If he speaks with you, I urge you to ask him what it is that he finds threatening by me sharing with my townsfolk my analysis. That's the builder, Muhammad Ali, who got 200 and something votes in Chadderton South. There's 213 people watching this. I know many of them are Muslim. Have I said anything anti-Muslim at all? No. If anything, I believe these people, Cameron Gaffar, referencing Islam in the way they do, are exploiting religion for their own political purposes and their own personal benefit. If there's anyone doing anything anti-Muslim here, it's not me. It's someone else. Let me play this bit again.
If those demands are met, then we will work with the other parties. And alhamdulillah, if that happens, we will get cabinet positions, we will get what our community deserves.
We will get cabinet positions. We will get what our community deserves. Now, before this video, this sound clipping was shared online, remember the reason he reacted and did this was because of what I'd shared, sharing with people that he wanted to be leader. And then he wanted to be deputy leader. And a deal was done within the Pakistani community, let's be clear, between Shoaib Akhtar, Naila Ibrahim and Cameron Ghaffar and his mates, the Oldham Group, that if Shoaib Akhtar and Naila Ibrahim could somehow work with me and convince me to support a coalition where Cameron Ghaffar would be deputy leader, then they would make sure he doesn't stand against me in the general election, but of course Shoaib Akhtar would. Now, my issue is a very simple one. I don't care if you stand. I'm not here to negotiate, and I sure as well will not surrender my town for my personal benefit. There's just no way I'm going to do that. So I continue to share what the plan was with all of you. So he wants cabinet positions. Now, Cameron Ghaffar has done less than a year on the council, or a year on the council. He's done a year on the council, along with Wahid. During that year on the council, they've been suspended. Wahid, now whilst Cameron Ghaffar was allowed back into the Conservatives if he undertook diversity training, Councillor Wahid was expelled for anti-Semitism. I've seen the documents. How can this town put on the cabinet, let alone deputy leader, individuals who stand on a pro-Palestinian platform, and I have no issue with that. I have no issue with standing. I mean, I question how effective it is for local governance, but this has become about something else, hasn't it? But how can two councillors with that chucked out of their former party, expelled or left, one expelled, one had to do diversity training, so I'm presuming he either left or he was expelled, one or the other. How can they have cabinet positions? The other three in front of us here have never been councillors before. How can you give complete novices cabinet positions? Cabinet positions are the people who are responsible for the running of the town. They manage millions of pound portfolio, multi-million pound portfolios like housing, regeneration, education, adult services. How can you finance, how can you give these, any of those three cabinet positions? It's not feasible, is it? Now, he knows this. So what's he making a move for him and Wahid, I think? Despite their issues, the circumstances of their departure from the Conservative Party, Councillor Abdullah at Wahid squared up to me at the count. It's a councillor. Puffed his chest out. Squared up to me. How can we give these people cabinet positions?
please just have faith in us, just a little bit more time. The meeting's on the 22nd of May, and then everything will be a lot clearer. And if they don't meet our demands, we don't care, and we will sit as opposition members. And that.
If they don't meet our demands, we don't care, we will sit as opposition councillors. Now, that to me is code for if those seeking to form a coalition and take power away from Labour don't give in to our blackmail, we will sit as opposition and allow our Rude Shada Labour Party to continue leading the council. That's what that is. That's how I'm interpreting that, and I don't think I'm interpreting that wrong. Do you? I don't think I'm interpreting that wrong at all.
Please just keep that in mind. And that's to all the brothers. We're not like the other party where, you know, just for positions we will go and get ourselves and put ourselves forward.
We're not like the other party. We're not just interested in positions to get ourselves forward. But we are not going to share what our policy priorities are. But we want cabinet positions. I think that's what that is. Sorry, I think that's what that is. Yes, he is. Chris, yes, he is. And the music's playing because I put the music as a background to it so that people knew that I had released the audio.
The money on the cabinets, etc., etc. We're not like that. That's not what we want. We want our community, and we're putting our community first. And you're just going to have to trust us because we can't actually dive.
You're just going to have to trust us. We're putting our community first, and you're just going to have to trust us. But prior to Raja Mir releasing that he was making a power grab in the coalition, he did not share any information, and now he's been forced to release this. And he's released it to an exclusive group where he makes reference to brothers. Not sisters, not community, but brothers. So I imagine from that he's released that to an exclusively Muslim group.
Divulge anything at all to anybody yet until it actually happens. And when it happens, then everybody will know exactly what we've done and how we've done it. And I'm hoping that inshallah ta'ala you'll be proud of us.
I'm hoping, God willing, you'd be proud of us. So all I did on Sunday night, I think, and in a transmission that covered a range, we went on a journey, didn't we? And this was just one aspect of what I talked about. And I think that's exactly what it is, Lou. It's no policies, it's only a power grab. And I posted this leaked audio footage from the leader of the so-called Oldham Group makes for interesting listening. How the other independents, never mind the Lib Dems and Conservatives, are even contemplating working with KAMMY G's demographically exclusive. They are exclusively Pakistani. I think they've got Montaz on board now. But, exclusively Muslim. All the candidates were Muslim. They had an opportunity to try and find candidates from other communities. They didn't. They even put up a Muslim candidate in Failsworth, Chadderton North. This is more than just gangster-style politics being played out in Oldham. That's because, as you have interpreted it yourself, the reference to blackmail. This is much worse. Not sure how Howard Sykes can surrender the town to this type of sectarian blackmail. And I quoted him, I didn't misquote him. There's some dots that lift the bits up, but the audio is played in its entirety, so you can listen to it on the post. We need to make sure our demands are met. We will get cabinet positions. We'll get what our community deserves. And if they don't agree to our demands, we don't care, and we will sit as opposition members. And that video, that sound clipping was played. They weren't on this, sorry, this isn't the wrong way. This is what he responded with. He got very angry on one of his... Sorry, I've got a moth or something flying around in front of me. He got very angry on one of his WhatsApp chat groups. Someone asked me to remove the phone number. I said no. This phone number is his phone number on the council webpage. I don't get it when people try and give me advice on things like that. The content is important. I don't need you to tell me to remove the phone number. I don't mean it disrespectfully. I'd already checked. That phone number is on the council webpage as his phone number. It's in the public domain. You've got to accept I've been doing this for a while. Apart from the fact that the camera's out of focus because I gave it a clean and I forgot to check it. I've been doing this a while. I will repeat everything I said. So this is KAMMY G. I don't have an issue with anything I've said. I stand by it. So he stands by everything he's said. But from now on, I refuse to answer any questions on groups. If you have a question, please call directly. I'm happy to chat. So that means he's not happy to put anything on record. He's happy to have a chat with you over the phone, and then he can recollect something different from what you can, but he's not willing to put anything on record. I wanted to be transparent with everyone, and I was openly sharing our group's views. The views where he couldn't share what your demands were. What he has to understand, I'm not sure who the he is, whether it's me or someone else. What he has to understand, he isn't even on my level. And I will not respond to him. I don't think Cameron Gaffoe quite understands how councils operate. Councillors are elected and you are duty bound to respond to people. That's how councillors' roles operate. You are duty bound to respond to the public. He doesn't understand what capitals, inverted, community is. And as for the mole, this is where it gets interesting. As for the mole, throughout history, the defeat of the Ummah has been that from traitors. You have to show your face to your Lord. So he's made it religious. Like that, if there was any doubt, he's made it religious. And as for the role, throughout history, the defeat of the Ummah has been that from traitors. You have to show your face to your Lord. Now, many of you might not know what that means. So I put this out and I shared it. Now, what you need to, the bit for you to understand is Ummah, and the context of how we use it is the Arabic term for nation. In reference to Islam, Ummah refers to the whole Muslim world, and there's links to the term caliphate if you continue that analogy, or the community of believers. So I'm not sure what he's referring to in terms of the Ummah, either the whole Muslim world or the community of Muslim believers. He definitely isn't making reference to the wider communities of Oldham. It's not good. And I do find it extraordinary that an Oldham councillor, elected as a Conservative by the way, is using the term Ummah to describe his voter base and single out traitors to Islam. For the avoidance of any doubt, Councillor Gaffar was elected as a Conservative in Hollingwood and not a tribal leader in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. So that's Cameron Gaffar, who, by the way, has been championed and promoted by both Mark Hints, Lisa Navesey, and Paul Eric. On Sunday, the Oldham Group, Cameron Gaffar and his entourage, turned up to the pro-Palestinian protests in Oldham Town Centre. I have no issue with people who want to go to protest. It's fine by me. If you want to spend your time protesting, absolutely fine. It's lawful, it's legal, and I will defend your right to protest. You see the Palestinian flags. What you see, and I say a new banner rises. The new banner that rises is in the hand of Councillor Naveed Chauhan from Waterhead. Councillor Chauhan is not holding a Palestinian flag. He's holding what is known as the PTI flag. And that means Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. It is essentially translated the Pakistan Movement for Justice. The Pakistan Movement for Justice, yes, there's a PTI flag. The Pakistan Movement for Justice is Imran Khan's political party. So we now have on the streets of Oldham, with a newly elected councillor, the introduction of Pakistani sectarian politics into the Oldham discourse, into the Oldham political discourse. Now, in the scheme of things, I am a supporter of the PTI. I am a supporter of Imran Khan. I don't believe the military should run the country anywhere. I'm a believer in democracy. But that's by the by. Councillor Chauhan, you've just been elected for Waterhead. It's based somewhere between what? I think Saddleworth, if you carry on, Saddleworth, Western Lees, and St James. It's wedged in between those places. Sholver, Moorside, Watersheddings. Grinnickers? Oh. And this is what? This is what? Just give me a second. Mate, I have no idea what you're making reference to and continuing to make reference to. I'm trying to run a transmission on the issues I discussed. If you want to discuss something with me, by all means contact me separately, otherwise I'll just ban you from this chat because I have no idea what you're going on about. Whatever YouTube censors I can't see. That's automatic. There's only me running this, and what I see on my screen in front of me is what's put in front of me. So no, I have no idea what you're on about. This has now expanded into something else, do you see? And it's another global issue. And I'm being careful with my words because someone will shout and, Muhammad Ali, one of those, will clip all of this and try and make it out as though I'm sort of anti-Muslim and incite violence against me. And the police clearly never arrest these people. The Oldham Group. Well, it's geopolitics, isn't it? What can we do? I mean, what do we want to do? I'll tell you what you can do, Naveed. As your first motion, the Oldham Group can pass, can take a motion to the full council for debate to pass a resolution calling on the chief executive to write to the Pakistani consulate demanding the release of Imran Khan. I'd love that. Go and do that. If you think that's what you've been elected for, rather than to make sure people's bins are collected, go and do that. Go and get a motion raised at the first council meeting from the Oldham Group. There's 5 of you, so you can propose it and second it. You can even have a recorded vote. You've got enough. And I think the rest of us would have a chuckle at the chief executive writing to the Pakistani consulate. No, why stop there? Write to the United Nations. Write to the United Nations. Let's have a motion that writes to the United Nations. In all seriousness, this is wrong. It's another banner. And it's another banner that causes division, causes anxiety amongst the demographic who already feel that the council is not for them and these councillors are not for them. And the reason why so many of those who have certain divisive political ambitions dislike me is because I speak out against it. And once I'm removed and people like me are removed, then there's only one show in town from the brown-faced people, and that's this show. So he wants to repeat everything he said, yeah. And then this pops up. I've not shared this yet. Apparently, this Arfan guy, and I think this was a bogus email sent by members of the Labour Party on purpose to all the council leaders, all the various leaders, copied in, sending it to Councillor Gaffer. So he expands on what he believes are the Oldham Group's priorities. Delighted to see the Oldham Group councillors representing the community when the Labour councillors are too scared of Keir Starmer and his Zionist masters and stayed at home with blood on their hands. Alhamdulillah, Councillor Gaffer, you will be able to deliver for all the brothers that voted for Oldham Group councillors and build a Muslim cemetery and a good school that will let Muslims in, unlike Bluecoat School, who rather take people from Hyde than families that live around the corner. Inshallah, you've shown more leadership in the last week by bringing people together to get rid of the Labour Council and Arud Shah, who doesn't care about the community and who would prefer to do what Keir and Jim McMahon tell her to do. Arfan. Now, I think this was some sort of double dealing by the other Pakistani faction of Arud Shah's to try and draw out what exactly Cameron Gaffer's demands are. And I know the Muslim cemetery is one of his demands because he tried to get a motion passed on it. Now let me share with you, if you take the time to understand local politics and governance and where, how, all of that, take the time to actually understand the role you're in. The power to build a cemetery does not lie with the council. It lies with the Home Secretary. Yeah, the power to build a cemetery does not lie with local government. It belongs with national government, and it's the same with a school, as I know all too well. Now, a Muslim cemetery, I have an issue with. I believe all cemeteries should have Muslim sections, so you should have sections for people of all faiths to be buried in. But a Muslim exclusive cemetery? So we, in a town that's segregated, we make sure that they're segregated in death? A Muslim school, per se, I'm not comfortable with, but I think a conversation around a Muslim school should take place in a wider discourse of education. But that's not what these people want, is it? Read it. Look at this. Throughout history, the defeat of the Ummah has been that from traitors. Look at these flags. The Oldham Group in attendance at the protest against war crimes and our countries. They can't even spell countries, and it shouldn't be countries, by the way. That's the wrong word. It should be governments. Our country is not complicit in war crimes. The vast majority of people in our country want nothing to do with any of this. You can say government, but the word countries, that's actually plural, S, rather than possessive apostrophe. These idiots can't even spell properly, and they want cabinet positions. And then this came out. You can see Councillor Saba. Gaza pain is not your gain. That's all of them at the protest with his Rolls Royce. Not KAMMY G, but Tory G. And yes, Raymond, that's where we end up with, isn't it? You may as well call them the Muslim group. They might as well be honest and call themselves the Muslim group. I'd respect them for more. They were supposed to be the voice for Gaza, so joining the Conservatives to form an alliance is a complete betrayal to the people that elected them. Well, what did you think they were going to do? What did people think they were going to do? Mark Ince is now trapped. Same with Paul Eric. How can you agree with any of this now, guys? What do your friends and family have got to say? You're trying to get people to join up with this lot. Mark Ince is now trapped and releases this community update. As we draw closer to the full council meeting on May the 22nd, I think this is ChatGPT or GPT or whatever it is. As we draw close, sorry, this is me trying to do my, dramatic voice. If I knew how to use the controls on this thing I'm pointing at, I'd do the bass boom or something. As we draw closer to the full council meeting on May the 22nd, I just wanted to provide a quick update from the perspective of the independent group. The independent group, by the way, is just Mark Ince and his mate Lisa Navesey. It's no one else. Our view is simple. Should be a comma there, by the way. Our view is simple. Any future governance of Oldham needs to reflect the results and mandate given by voters. Clearly, independence should be a central part to any future configuration. Oh, you've just been shafted by the Oldham Group, mate. Did you bring back a doggy bag from Cafe East? Have you got any samosas left? Our primary objective. Remember, this is the Oldham Group, by the way, who issued a statement a couple of days ago saying they will bring the coalition down. our primary objective, which we feel benefit across the borough, aims are unchanged and clear and come before any localised issues. Number 1. The removal of the Metropolitan Borough of Oldham from the Greater Manchester Combined Authority Places for Everyone plan, protecting our green spaces from profiteering developers, which is why Mark Ince was sat on the planning committee, voted to build on the green belt. Remember? Which I suppose is not as bad as voting against his own motion. The implementation of Article 4 direction, meaning HMOs will have to go through proper planning scrutiny, giving residents a voice on the impact of such developments within their communities. Actually, Article 4 directions don't do that. And by the way, his motion on Article 4 directions I wrote for him at the time. So he still hasn't understood what Article 4 directions really are. And if he wants to restrict HMOs, which is what I think he's saying here, well, I think that's a dig at the HMO millionaire KAMMY G, who was nibbling samosas week just a few days ago, where him and Paul Eric were sat together with KAMMY G and his mates. So I think the introduction of that clearly demonstrates the breakdown of that relationship. This next one is outrageous. And you all need to know it's outrageous. A full independent inquiry into historic child sex abuse within the borough with unrestricted access to documentation, testimony and council resource. That is a cop-out. It's dangerous. First of all, it should be first. Both the Lib Dems and the Conservatives have put CSE first. A public inquiry. This moron. I'm sorry, Mark, I don't know what else to say to you. I really don't. You've been on this journey long enough to understand the difference between an independent inquiry and a public inquiry. Sean Fielding claimed his first review that Mark Peel ran away from was independent. Andy Burnham claimed his assurance review was independent. An independent inquiry has no legal framework. They can do what they want. Why are you hesitating from using the term public inquiry? Why is he hesitating from using the term public inquiry? Full council support for residents in opposing rogue installers of internet and telecoms equipment. Now, those are those G5 masts or what they have. Those wireless masts that are causing issues in Roytonshire and some of the other places. And yes, but he's not proposing anything. Full council support for residents. What does that even mean? Again, when it comes to details, Mark Ince isn't very good on the details. And he's had time to come up with this. And this is the best he's come up with. I have had numerous conversations with various individuals. How many conversations? And with who are your various individuals and groups? And I'm awaiting outcomes and responses. That means no one's agreed to anything that you've got to say. It is evident from all sides there is an acceptance for the need for change. Now, the only game in town in terms of a need for change, and he criticised me for this, I'm not a supporter of Howard Sykes. I'm not a champion of Howard Sykes. I've not said, yo, Howard, yeah. I've not done any of that. But he's the only alternative to lead a coalition. So he's finally got to this point. But the politics of experience teaches us that catastrophe is often found on the road of good intention. It'd be like, is it The Office? It'd fit in that, that piss take program, The Office, where he gives the pep talks and everyone leaves scratching their heads thinking, what on earth was that buffoon going on about? Jam butters and lashings of hot tea. Oh. And of course, not to be forgotten in all of this is an unnamed individual on the show in Crompton. That's the official webpage of Mark Hintz's Secret Squirrel Party. Has posted this, and no one has posted anything since to say this is not accurate. It is currently our intention to prevent Howard Sykes becoming leader by all available means possible. Thumbs up. And if he is elected to bring his administration, administration down at the first opportunity. So who's in charge? Who's in charge? I am aware of where the negotiations are up to. I'm happy to share that with you all, I suppose, even with my blurry camera. Let me just turn my camera on and off and see if that makes any difference. So please just bear with me a second whilst I get myself a drink and have a short break. I've been on for, an hour and a half or so. So let me have a short break. Please, if you find value in this transmission, press like, press share, subscribe to the webpage. It's 75 pence. I've had one subscription so far today. And maybe consider buying me a coffee. 3 people have bought me a coffee today. I'm hoping that's fixed the autofocus. Seems fixed. From where I'm standing, we've still got 80 or 90 or no, 269 of you who are with me. No, I think I'll come back with where the negotiations are up to. Yeah, I think I'll come back with where the negotiations are up to. I'm out of candles, Sheila, behind me. So if you're missing the candles behind me, I'm out of candles. I'll come back with where the negotiations are up to during the course of maybe tomorrow, the day after. It's very interesting. It is genuinely interesting. And for the question that was asked as to why Shoaib and Naila won't sit as part of the Oldham Group, the response I got directly from one of them was that they don't trust Cameron Gaffer. That's the response I got. They don't trust Cameron Gaffer. So that's where all of that is up to. Am I back in focus? Yeah, can see my grey highlights, good. Yeah, they don't trust the Oldham Group. And the reason, that's the other thing I wanted to share with you. Something really, really straightforward. And it just shows how, if anything, why such a small demographic in terms of the Muslim community has been able to get the strength in representation it has is because it's organised. It's organised in a way that the white community isn't. I don't think that's racist of me or derogatory of me saying that to any of you. I think you can clearly see that. And I'll demonstrate this. They've been after getting Azad on to the Oldham Group because they can't get Shoaib and Naila to join. So they can get to 6 members. And the reason why they want to get to 6 members has genuinely worried me. The reason why they need to get to 6 numbers is because 6 numbers gives them a certain status in the council. So 6 members in a group gives you certain status. It gives you a room and it gives you a paid researcher who can then help you do all the work. Now, the obvious thing for me is I look at the other cohort of independents and forget Mark Ince and Lisa. I think you can put them to one side. The 2 Failsworth factions don't get on with each other, but they appreciate and understand that they have to work together. And they both will sign up to the coalition, particularly around the CSE. The Royton Independents will also sign up to that. There's 6 of them there. They don't all have to agree on everything. They've got to elect a leader between them. Maybe that's the problem. But if they joined as a 6, their collective voice and their individual voice would be stronger. But that's a conversation for another day. I'm also hearing rumours that Mark Ince has been communicating with other councillors, desperate to try and get them to sign up to the Oldham Group. So far as saying he's joined the Oldham Group or rumours of him supporting the Oldham Group. It's, as far as I'm aware, that's nonsense. I've seen the documents that have been submitted to the council in terms of the groupings. And the Sean Crompton grouping is a separate entity in its own right, as is the Royton Independent grouping, so that's a separate entity of 2. The 2 Failsworth factions are 2 separate entities. One's the Failsworth Independent Party and one's Mark Wilkinson and Sandra Ball. The Oldham Group no longer exists as a town cross. I mean, the Oldham Group are just the 2 Shaw guys. On many levels, this is silly. Genuinely, on many levels, this is silly and childish, what's going on. And on another level, it's dangerous. I think what KAMMY G and the Oldham Group are doing is extremely dangerous. I don't believe that makes me anti-Muslim. We all have to decide what sort of town we want to live in, what sort of place we want our children to grow up in, and indeed what sort of cemeteries we want to bury our loved ones in, where we want to send them to school, all of that, our children to school. And I genuinely believe, as I have done for my entire life, that we are stronger together. And what these people want, I don't believe I'm the only person that wants no part of this. Which is why I came on this evening to share all of this with you. I'll come back tomorrow or the day after to share what the negotiations are up to, because I want to keep Sunday separate just to go through the court case that I endured. And then there'll be a meeting on Tuesday or Wednesday. It's at 12 o'clock on the 22nd. It's a lunchtime meeting. I promise to keep all of you updated as much as I can. I share stuff on my Facebook page. By all means, just copy it, share it, please. If you read it, like it and share it. That's the least I ask. And if you can aid me, buy me a coffee, sign up to the webpage. These transmissions in the current format will end at the end of May. It's just not possible for me to continue this way. My name is Raja Mir, and this was a Recusant 9 transmission. A very good evening.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.